Hi YouTube, how are you doing? I'm doing okay. I honestly could be a little bit better. Physically, I'm doing all right like that today, but I'm mentally, emotionally, I've had some very strange things happen. The last 24 hours have just been, it's like when I get on here, if I have one of my days where I'm just like flustered and or upset, and it's really hard for me to even deal with the day, that means I have been under attack extremely. Like, okay, it's always something every day. I'm not kidding you. Like yesterday, and it's not just one person, and it's usually men, but if it was just one person, I'd be like, yeah, well, whatever. We all run across the occasional jerk out in our daily lives or whatever, but this is like way different. So I was reading you yesterday what this one younger so-called friend of mine on Facebook had written his junk to me in private, and then got mad at me when I wouldn't. And so he came over and he put a note on my timeline. And yeah, I understand, but I still don't talk in private messages no matter who wants to get mad at me, unless you're family. If I thought you were connected to God and you're not as closely connected, I've made that mistake in the past. I sent a note. Doug asked me to send to a person, and this person treated me like a slut because Doug wanted to help his mother. Well, I think Doug knew that this guy was going to treat me like a slut because of it, because that's what these fucking assholes do. But so then I get, in the abundance of the heart, mouth speaketh it. Take my mouth and speak through it. Take my heart and think through it. Take my mind and set it on fire. Okay, thank you for that. So anyway, today has been a super trip. So last night, see, it didn't end there. Excuse me. So Doug had a guy over. He was buying a trailer of ours, car hauling type or big utility trailer. Just a sec here. So they're out there in the shop. It's about 7 o'clock at night or whatever. It was getting a little later, so I took my shower, not a big deal. I'm in the shower, and I hear banging on my house, right under my window in my bathroom. So I think it's Doug. And I'm thinking, why doesn't he just come in and talk to me, And so there's banging. I go, I can't hear you. And he's shining the flashlight in the bathroom. And I know that there's a guy out there with him. At least so I think this is what's going on. There's another knock on my bathroom window, or right below the window. And keep in mind, even when you're outside of the bathroom, you can hear the shower, So by then, I was getting a little upset, and I yelled, I can't hear you, To me, it sounded like John's on the phone or something like that, because I have a son named Jonathan. So I get out of the shower and by then, so this was about all about 10 o'clock or so. So just a sec. Anyway, what a trip. All the time I'm thinking, why didn't he just come in the house if he had something to say to me? Are we that lazy, Because, I mean, come on, I've had stuff like that happen. So anyway, to get back to the story, Doug gets in after 10, and him and this guy had been in the shop. The guy evidently was going to go back to his house, which was about maybe a 15-20 minute drive from us. And he had been gone for 3 hours from 7 to 10. And I don't know if Doug said he got a phone call. I don't know if it was his wife or whatever. The next thing Doug knows, there's a knock on the shop of his door. And he knows it's not me. And the guy goes, "Did you hear that?" And then they heard it again. And Doug's like, "Come in." He knew it wasn't me because I'm not going to knock, and it's Pine City Sheriff's Office, the cops. They were looking for this guy that came over to buy a trailer. This guy's 3 or 4 friends, great big guys, were worried about him because he didn't come back home right away. So they called the cops as a missing person type situation and had the cops come out to our house. And it is really a good thing that they didn't. I've had these Pine City cops walk in my house in the middle of the night. They were looking for a neighbor that was a drug dealer. So I've had my issues with these people before. Probably not the same guy. But so they asked this dude who was with Doug for his driver's license. You got any identification? Yeah. And these 3-4 big guys, Doug said his friends were like 6 foot something, 250 pounds, big guys. And then the cop asked Doug, and keep in mind, before you go out on a call and you're a cop, you know where you're going. You're not just going blindly out into the country to somebody's house. You know that address and you know who they are. But I mean, he really didn't know if Doug was the owner of the place or what. So he says to Doug, "Can I see your identification?" And Doug said no. But see, we've had these issues. It was a few years ago here. A horse came over from a neighbor's and got my horse. The boy jumped the fence, got in with my girl, then they both got out. So it was late at night. I'm talking like 1 in the morning. And these neighbor people wanted me to go out, and they're in their 40s. I'm like 60, and they wanted me to go out in the middle of the night to help them get their horse. And I'm like, see, I knew for a minute there anyway, my horse wasn't on their land. My horse was on my friend's land. Wasn't a big deal. Well, I didn't go to bed. I got up, I was out there at daybreak, and I got my horse. And she saw me going by with my horse, and she's like, "Wait, now keep in mind, this person has had her horse come around in my yard, running around our vehicles and stuff in a really dangerous situation, and her husband and daughter were chasing these animals around." I thought about roping it, but if I had, and it's not my horse, it could have got all crazy and glass might have got broke, the animal might have got hurt, my horse might have got hurt, all kinds of, and we kind of had a horrible exchange from what they started to begin with. So anyway, that day I got my horse home, and as she goes, "Will you stop so I can get my horse?" And just because of the way her and her husband had treated me the night before, and it was their horse again that was over in my yard, I said, no, you can go get your own horse. I stayed up all night to get mine. And I thought about it, but she was just too much of a bitch to me. So her horse ended up over in my yard, over in my horse's corral. I got him corralled up so it was easier for her to get. And because Dusty just came to me when I called her and we went home. And she had been on my, but she had called the cops and told the cops my horse was over on her property, which wasn't true. So this cop and this cow came onto the land, and she's like, just stop so I can get my horse. And the cops trying to berate us for her bullshit. Typically, I'm not like that with my neighbors, but we started off on the wrong foot. And even the time I spent trying to get their horse the first time, I was berated for even what I was trying to do because they're not horse people. And I knew the measures of how to take care of this, and he wouldn't listen. He just would not. So it's like, okay. So anyway, I went in the house that time and I told him, I said, tell your wife to come and get her horse, because I knew he couldn't do it, you know. Well, this time anyway, I had Dusty in, and her pony was in there running around, and I just put up my hand. He stopped by my horse, and I was petting Dusty, no ropes, no nothing. I just held her there a little bit so she could get the halter on her horse and get him home. But this cop the whole time is acting like a dick, and Doug told him, get off my property. Our horse wasn't even on, or Barb's horse wasn't even on their property. It was a friend of hers, and you have no business over here. You're trespassing. So that's just some of the weird stuff. But I mean, talk about weird, taking a nice peaceful shower, no clothes on, and I have a dude shining a flashlight through my bathroom window because another guy is out in the shop with Doug. And they called, I mean, talk about police service in a city. If you call for somebody, oh, they've been gone 3 hours, they'd freaking laugh at you. You could be gone for a day and they'd still be like, oh, 24 hours or 48 hours. They have to be missing, then we'll go look for them. But no, not here. It's like, oh, gee, Doug's gone for 3 hours. I better call the cops. That's flipping ridiculous. If I did that, I'd be in jail for, what is that? Filing a false complaint or whatever. They'd get me for something stupid, you know? And it just never ends. There was just more this morning. Doug learned this new thing from a Pakistani, no offense to anybody. Over talking. When you're trying to talk, if they keep talking, you actually can't have a conversation. There's no possible way. So we have this new trick around here. It's called, I don't care what you say, I'm just not going to have a conversation. It's not possible. Well, it is on somebody's terms, on his terms, but nah. He went into the chiropractor, his back is sore. I'm sure that's the reason. It's always something, you know, when a person isn't feeling good, you know. So, anyway, I wasn't even going to bring that up, but things have been so fucking crazy. Unbelievably so. Yeah, there's more. There's more. But I would sound to be somebody I'm not if I even talk about it. You know? Unbelievable. Jeez. Jesus Christ. It's only Monday. Wow. So, yeah. And then I'm listening to the spiders in your house, and they're talking about brown recluses. And they're called recluse because they really don't want to be, they hide. They come out at night. They showed where they are, like from the map showed like Kansas area, Texas, Arizona. There was almost a spot in between Texas and Arizona, and kind of went up a little further north, even where it should be, like you'd think, even going across into like parts of Oklahoma, maybe even. But they said that it might have been a different kind of recluse that is in certain areas. I know for a fact, although it showed them in Texas, and it showed kind of a gap in between there where they wouldn't be, and then they were in Arizona. I was up in the mountains in Arizona, and like Texas is over here. I got bit by a brown recluse, and I'll tell you how I know it was that poisonous spider in a minute here. Well, not only because that's the description of it is what it was, but the scientists say the areas that they're in, and they don't typically go out of these areas. Well, I lived in this cabin where I was afraid it was going to be biting my children. I was getting bit at night, and they say if you put on your clothes that have been, like if you put your jacket or something on a chair or whatever, or hang it up, and you put it on, the spider might bite you, or if you roll over it at night, it might bite you, and typically people aren't like their food source or whatever. But I was getting bit right there, a little lower, every single night for about 3 nights. It's like, okay, this, I don't know what kind of spider this is. I don't know what's going on, but I've got my kids get a bite like this, I'm thinking. And I was putting like medicines on it, whatever I had. I thought, it might kill them, because it seemed to me that it was making me really sick. The next thing I knew, I had a black spot about like that on my chest, right above my breast, about the size of a quarter, a little bit bigger, and about that deep of dead flesh that I had to dig out of myself because there was nobody around, and I didn't have a phone. My kids and I were up in this cabin, and their dad was doing what their dad does, not with his family. It kind of runs in that family. So I thought, I gotta kill this thing, and I gotta operate on myself. I had a little, what I called a Mickey of Canadian Windsor whiskey. Took about 3 good shots of that and sat there for a while, and I thought, well, I can't really have any more, or I'm not going to be able to do the surgery. And I dug that out of me, and I taped myself up. And then I did get the spider the next night, and it had been biting me every night for several nights. No clue why it didn't bite my children, but anyway, I did get it, and it was a brown recluse. There's other types of recluses, but the brown ones are extremely dangerous and very poisonous, and they can kill you. So I had that in my system for a while. Took me a while to really feel normal after going through that. This is still, I got up in the mornings and had to go to work, and I worked on the property where I lived for this guy that lived in a mansion there, on the same property. It was a trip. I've been through some shit in my life. But anyway, what I'm getting at is the area for the brown recluse is a little bigger than what they think by about 300 miles. They don't think that the spiders have migrated to any place else. And I'm telling you, they have. And this was in the 80s, so I know for a fact that they're wrong about it. And I can identify different spiders that are poisonous from living down there. So, yeah. So I'm listening to the spiders in your house. And this one dude, he tried to get this female brown recluse to bite him. She didn't want to. But when she did, and she bit his hand, he was surprised at the amount of venom she put in him and how badly it hurt. Could you imagine a tender spot on your body and then having to do surgery on that tender spot? Female skin, our epidermis is 2 to 3 layers thinner than a man's. So, yeah, that's a trip. Anyway, I've done self-surgery more than a few times in my life. I had to. I didn't have a choice. One time I just flat did not trust the doctors with me. And, this time I actually didn't have a choice. So, imagine sterilizing something sharp, knowing you're going to dig into your flesh and it's going to hurt. And you have to keep digging the dead flesh out until all of it's out of your body so you don't poison yourself and not make a big enough hole where you're actually going to die because you can feel it in your flesh and the blood and everything. And doing that, it was a trip, let me tell you. So yeah, last night and this morning wasn't as bad as that. It was pretty bad though. Yeah. It's, I'll leave the link to the spiders in your house. I'll let you see what these recluses look like. I'm going to put it in the description. I'll put it in the comments after. If you're interested, you can click on it. It'll just say the spiders in your house, brown recluse, and then you can see what bit me. They're deadly. Jeez. And that's okay. This is no bullshit. This is my luck in life. Or my lack of it. Or the weird things I don't know, it's just fucking weird. Okay, so I get down to Arizona. I don't know a lot about the native animals down there. I mean, I've seen them like on National Geographic or whatever, but in books. But I get out of the van, I'm there with my kids. And the next thing I know, I see this Sidewinder coming across the desert towards me. This thing was running at me, and I screamed at my kids to get back in the van. They were closer to the van than I was. I think I was out there looking at the different cacti in the desert, and this thing was chasing me. That was my very first experience in the Arizona desert. We had just come up through Mexico too. And I'd been around deserts before, but that was like my first day in Arizona, you know? It's like, dang. Then I got valley fever, my oldest son and I, another deadly, could be potentially disease that I still, once you get certain things, bacteriums in you, if you're not treated, and I had no clue. These things are in you forever, and there's not a lot of stuff you can do about it. So he gets fevers too, and gets, we call them just hot fevers that we live with, you know. So, strange life. It's pretty good when you live in Minnesota and it's the middle of winter and you can sleep with your bedroom window open because you're so freaking overheated. And then my body temperature runs low. Figure this one out. Instead of 98.6, it's probably about 96.5. And I have a fever, but it doesn't register on a regular thermometer. So if I go to get care and they don't care, I don't get the care I need. So weird. Some really weird things that I have been through. So, yeah. Such is life, hey? But when I say I've been through some really, I mean so many things, and a lot of it involved witchcraft and people intentionally doing things to me. And it's not just one person. If it were, like I say, I could deal with it. And it's usually men. So one man will do something. Another man will do something. Then if one man only does a little thing, they think, well, it's not that bad because it's only a little thing. Well, that little thing might be the last thing to set me off, you know? I remember one time, it was about 6 years ago, I was on here, I made a video screaming at Stephen James Deshawn has gotten into it's oh, what do you call that now? Dang it. Where are you writing it? It's God dang it. I'll think of it. It's just like yesterday. I got off here and then I got the Red Hot Chili Peppers, The Other Side song. That's the one I was thinking, how long, how long? So anyway, I'll get back to it. It's, I wrote in the book, I wrote in it, and he was saying, well, anybody can write in it, but the thing is, the actual book itself of, it's a record of the Illuminati bloodlines, ones that can actually manipulate matter on this planet. So he has no business in it, is what I'm saying, and he's writing in the book of Gematria. And he's written all through it and all in it, and he doesn't belong in it. And even the numbers that he has are matching the divine feminine spirit. How do you go figure that? How do you there's somebody that calls it his book. Really now? Huh. Gee, I don't think so. How do you go from divine feminine to somebody that looks like Brock Lesnar, the wrestler, or something like that? Just doesn't seem to fit. But they made the numbers fit So he can get in there and write what he wants about the people of God and manipulate it and make it look like people are something that they're not, and to make himself look like he's something that he isn't. And that's what he's doing. So anyway, and it's said to be like people like Hollywood goes by gematria. Big fucking deal. That don't mean shit. Does not mean shit. There's probably a handful of people, if even that, on this planet that book was written for and about, you know. And it's the Christ bloodline. It has nothing to do with the dark cabal. It's not the Illuminatis. That's what I'm telling you. Back in the day, before the Templars got a bad name, and they did bad things, and the Rosy Cross, the Rosicrucians, back in them days, the handwrittenness of the gematria was a whole different thing than it is right now. And it's more just, the numbers are accurate. And they say the numbers don't lie when it comes to gematria. No, but the people writing in that book do. That's what I'm saying. And they can manipulate it in that respect. That's what it's for them. But for the Christ Spirit and the people that can be found in that book, there's a different set of numbers that go way back that doesn't even include current era, that far back, you know. So. But yeah, it took an awful lot for me to even get to the screaming point at this person that was basically lying and saying he was somebody he wasn't. He was saying he was the feminine spirit. He was saying he was Christ's helper, and that is not what a man's position is. Well, I'm not saying it isn't that. I'm saying there's one particular person, the feminine spirit, which is the Holy Spirit, that you talk to talk to God, by the way. And he is not that person. That's what I'm telling you. So, yeah. But our ulterior motive is to talk directly to God. There's a lot of people that will pray to Jesus. Jesus isn't meant to be prayed to. God is, you know. He's meant to help you find the words within your heart so you can talk to the Spirit of the Father that flows through the divine feminine. No human being has that actual energy and can wield anything. We just don't. We get help by one master or the other, period. So, yeah. Well, I'm going to leave it on that note for today. That's probably about it. I really felt like almost doing a rant. I'm just... What happened this morning just compounded. It's just crazy making bullshit. It's just unbelievable. Unreal. And I'm sure, and today's not over yet. So, I'm going to try and be optimistic. You know, I just said that yesterday too to Doug. I always try to be optimistic, but whew, it's not easy. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Have a good night or day wherever you're at. Peace and love from Pine City, Minnesota, USA. I'll put that spider video in your house, or in your house, yeah, the spiders in your house, um, in the comments, because it doesn't really belong with this video, but it's very interesting because those spiders have migrated, it looks to be about 300 miles out of the area they say they are in, although there are recluses in that area of Arizona that are poisonous that aren't the brown ones, because they can take on the color of what they're eating, and the spiders seem to be the same color as my flesh, oddly enough, because it was eating me at night. So it was coming up through these floorboards, actual old wooden boards, and was under the house in this. And I killed that one, but I knew there was more, and I did move my kids out of there. So, all right, everybody, peace. Talk to you tomorrow.